let's talk about the life to-do list. This is a list that I created back in January. I have talked about it a little bit, but I haven't really explained it because honestly, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have absolutely no idea, and I'm gonna do my best in this video to explain what it is and how I found it helpful and how maybe it could help you. But essentially the last 6 months, first half of 2023 have just been this big year of experimentation in regards to this list. I needed to find some sort of organizational system that was actually going to help me achieve my goals and make sure that I was not forgetting things, because that was a really big issue I had. I would heavily procrastinate on certain things and then I'd forget things and then I'd get super stressed out and I was like, no more. So I am going to explain what the list is, how it has affected me and has made my life so much easier. And I'm going to also maybe explain how it could help you. I don't know, so bear with me, but let's get into it. Okay, so I kind of forgot to explain that I'm in the middle of my mid-year reset, right? There's less than 2 weeks until the very middle of the year. And in the last couple of weeks, I decided it was time for a full overhaul. I think the middle of the year is a great time to reflect anyway, and that's essentially what I'm doing. I am just going through every category of my life, every single category on this list, and just reflecting, like, how have these things been working? What hasn't been working? Do I still want these same goals, or should we make some new ones? Now's the perfect time to do that. And part of that has been taking this list making into the physical world and off my computer. So when I made the list back in January, I did it in Notion. I'm just gonna give a quick little history of my to-do list and then I'll explain how to do it in the way that I'm currently doing it right now. So back in January, I created this life to-do list in Notion and it was fantastic. It was on my web browser 24/7, which meant that I could check it every single day. And that's a key part of this. Trust me, you need to have it somewhere that you'll be able to see it every single day. And for the first 4 months of the year, amazing. I achieved so much in those few months, maybe more just in the beginning of this year than I had in the whole of 2022, which is wild, right? It just made things so easy. Then I kind of fell off using it for maybe about a month-ish, maybe end of April. It was sort of when I was transitioning from Austin to Toronto, and then I've been traveling and I'm only just now trying to catch back up with it. So I decided that instead of trying to get back into Notion, I would move that list from Notion into Google Sheets because I prefer Google Sheets. I just didn't want to learn Notion, and Google Sheets for me is very easy. I know formulas. It's the place that I have designed my budget spreadsheets and it's just easy. And I created a habit tracker back in January as well. And it just started out with maybe 5 little habits and then I've been adding things to it, and now I have this entire page that's half habit tracking, half this life to-do list, and I'm still experimenting with it. I'm hoping by the end of the year I have some sort of really cool habit tracking planner that just makes sense. But this year has just been a big experimentation year. It was just about figuring out what are the things that I actually like doing and the things that I actually want to work on, and it's been very, very handy. But that whole habit tracker, that's a whole other thing. Like, let me know if you'd like to know more about that. I don't even know how I'd explain that one. That one's a whole other mess because again, it's just experimentation. I don't have solid answers at this point in time. I'm still figuring it out. But for the list, I decided to take it off the computer for a minute and for my mid-year reset, do it physically because I love getting like paper and crafty and pens and all that kind of thing. So what you will need is some paper. It can just be regular paper. You could cut it up. You could leave it A4, whatever you feel. You could get Post-it notes. You could get pages out of a notebook, which is what I'm doing. So I'm just taking pages out of a notebook and a pen or a marker of some sort. And then if you want to have some like colored markers, which in my personal opinion is the best part, I love the Zebra mild liners. They have a thick highlighter pen on one side and then on the other side it's a fine liner. I love these. You could write the headings with the fine liner, or you could write the headings with the pen and then highlight them. But I love it, and then you can color coordinate everything and it just looks so good. And the reason that I'm doing it physically is because I actually want to be able to lay out every area of my life on the floor so I can look at it all and decide whether I need to break any of the categories further down into smaller categories or if I want to consolidate some of them and just, figure that out But that's the first thing. You just need some sort of medium to work with to be able to start categorizing your life. The second thing that you need to do is categorize your life. This is just basically breaking down your entire life into different categories. When I started this list, all I knew was that I needed to break down all of my tasks into smaller, more attainable tasks, and that would make my life easier. And sure enough, it did. So when it comes to categories, I wish I could give you a template. I wish I could give you all of the specific categories that pertain to your life, but I can't, because I am not you and I am not the next person. The next person isn't me, and everybody's life is different, right? And I think one of the reasons that I haven't really shared a lot of this and my categories is because 90% of my categories are just related to my job, which is like social media and the inventory. And so a lot of my categories are broken down into the different social media platforms and the different bits of work that I have to do between my own personal website, my inventory website, different email lists, and all that kind of stuff, which I know doesn't relate to everybody. So today I'm going to do my best to try and give you some examples of categories and how you can start working that out. The first example I have, this doesn't apply to me, but if you're someone who has kids, that's a fantastic category on its own, right? You could have just one list of everything that you need to do that relates to your children. If you wanted to make it more specific, you could have a category for each child, and it's just a place that you can have the heading and just list every single thing that you need to do, you know, doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, if they need any school supplies, if you need meetings with the school, if they have any field trips coming up or assignments due, anything like that, you just put it on the list, and it's just a way to keep track of everything so you don't forget anything. I know it sounds super simple, trust me, this whole thing is very, very simple. It's nothing groundbreaking, I swear. It's just what I discovered doing this year, and it's working. Another category would be home. Again, this doesn't really relate to me because I currently don't have a home, but for this, I would personally include everything home, everything garden, and the car as well, unless say you have a lot of stuff to do for the car, then you could probably make that yourself. But that includes needing tires changed, getting a service, needing to put fuel in the car, needing to clean out the car. If you share a car with someone, who's doing what with the car? This is inside the house. Are there repairs? Do you need a plumber? Do you need some roofing fixed? Is there a blank space on the wall where you're like, I really need to get something like a picture and put that there? Add it to the list. Garden, anything that needs to be done in the garden. Do you need to declutter anything? It goes on the list. A personal one of mine, which I think applies to every single person, is finance. And I think this is the category that drove me to make this list, because my finances are a little more complicated than what they used to be. I own a business, I have personal finances, and I also lived in a different country, and it just made everything so complicated tax-wise. And because it was so complicated, I didn't know what I was doing, and I ignored it for a lot of last year, which meant I had a lot of tasks build up. And for this year, particularly because the Australian financial year is ending right on the mid-year, I still have a lot to do before that point, but I needed a place that I could break down all of these tasks and make sure that I wasn't forgetting them, that I wasn't ignoring them and procrastinating on them because they were too difficult or too complicated. And so this list of mine includes things from tracking my 2021/2022 business finances. It's also tracking my personal finances. It was about connecting some particular software that my accountant could use that was better than me trying to do it myself. I don't know. There was just so many different things. It was about paying invoices, paying the tax, setting up certain business accounts, credit cards, everything around that. And I still have a lot on the list. That's one of the biggest lists. But my goal for 2023 is to become the most financially organized person on the face of the planet. Partially why I have my financial planners. I just want to make sure that I am so on top of it and I'm not afraid of it anymore. I was one of those people that was terrified of money. I didn't want to know what I was spending. I didn't want to know where it was going. And since making my planner, it has made it so much easier for me to get through that fear, and now I'm actually working on these tasks. So financial is a great one. Anyway, there is a million different things that you could do in your life to break down into a different category. As I said, 90% of mine are just my social media accounts and related to the different areas of my business. If you are able to do that in your job, that might be really handy. Like maybe you work with multiple different departments, make a category for each department and then list all the tasks and the things that need to be done under those categories. That's the biggest thing that has helped me. It was breaking down everything that I needed to do with my job into much smaller categories, it's changed everything. So essentially, make categories. I'm hoping that gives you a bit of inspiration and enough of an idea about how to make your own categories. I think I currently have 9. 3 of them are mostly personal, which is kind of finance, although like the finance is half business as well. Then there's a personal one, and I also have a miscellaneous. I think it's important to have a miscellaneous one. The miscellaneous one, I put the most random stuff on there. It's not a grocery list or a shopping list, but half the time it just ends up with stuff on there, like go to the post office, or return this item that I bought from this store, or buy something from the hardware, you know, just stuff that I need to get ends up being on that miscellaneous list. Or birthdays and gifts and stuff, that's a great one for the miscellaneous list. Anyway, that's enough about the categories. If you have any questions or would like some guidance in making your categories, just leave a comment down below and I will try my best to be able to help you out. But the last thing, this is a 3-step process and it is so easy. Third step is to ensure you put it somewhere that you will be able to look at it every single day. For me, my web browser with my Google Sheets, the tab is there. I check it every day. There's like 5 or 6 different tabs on my computer. I check every single day without a doubt. And it's one of them. And that makes it really easy. In an ideal world, and I think this would be my ideal planner, if I had an office, I would have a giant whiteboard. Like I'm talking as tall as I am, as big as I am, and I would have it all color coded. I have all those colorful whiteboard markers that I bought off Amazon last year, and it would be just this massive in your face list that I would have to look at all the time. And that is probably how I would do it. But you might want to do like a pin board, or you may have some other system or way that makes it easy for you to always look at it every single day. But don't put it in a diary. Don't put it in a book, because that is the easiest way to never check it. And that is what I have always done. Last year, I just had this feeling inside that I needed to come up with a list, and I experimented. I tried so many different ways, and this is the only way that seems to work. It's just a tab in my web browser seems to be my ultimate way of ensuring that I check it every single day. And honestly, that's the key. As stressful as it can be to be constantly reminded of the stuff that you have to do, for me personally, it's the only way that I will ever remember to get anything done. Because if I don't want to see it anymore, guess what? I have to get it done. And therefore, to ease the pain of constantly looking at these things, I do them. And it's super satisfying seeing the lists get smaller and smaller and smaller. It doesn't feel stressful if I add new things to the list. I think another thing that I've done too is remind myself that, you know, some things do have a time limit, but for most of this stuff, I'm like, there's no time limit. We're not rushing. We're just trying our best to get it done when it gets done. And yeah, it's amazing. It's actually really, really helped. So those would be the 3 steps. Get yourself some sort of medium to make the list, then make the list, then put the list somewhere that you'll see it every single day. And that's the simple formula. To wrap up the video and explain how this has changed my life would be that, following from what I said, having to look at it every single day has just driven me to want to check things off it, and so I do. Basically what this list has done, it has freed up mental capacity, right? Last year, I had no system, which meant my brain would have to work overdrive to try to remember all the things that I needed to do. And that's when you'd be out somewhere and you'd be reminded of something and you're like, oh my God, I have to do that. And then you end up in a mood, or you're distracted because there's this thing that you've just been reminded of. I don't have that anymore. I never, ever am like reminded that I have to do something because it's already on the list. It's already there. So my brain has all this extra space now to take on extra things, to actually take on doing the tasks. And you would think, because this makes no sense, right? You'd think that by doing all of these tasks, you wouldn't have any room for anything else, but it's the complete opposite. You have more mental capacity to not only do those tasks, but then add in more tasks and more things that are actually beneficial. For example, health and fitness. I have been so on top of my health and my fitness this year, and that is always the first thing to go. And it's not because I magically have more time for them, it's because I now have more mental capacity for them. And the best thing about making room for stuff like that is it is so beneficial that it's actually going to fuel you to be able to have more capacity to do the list, right? When you are eating well, you're sleeping well, you're working out, life is good. But it's also one of the hardest things to actually build into your life. And this is the other thing that the list has done for me. It has given me the ability to understand how I build habits. I started by doing tiny tasks of this list, and then what happens is your brain and your body get so used to doing these tasks that they become more natural, they take less brain capacity, again, freeing up the whole space in your mind. And the easier that the habits get, the more room you have to take on more things. And so it's been really good because I've been able to work on things in every single category without being overwhelmed. I'm not focusing too much energy on just one category and neglecting the rest. I have this incredible balance in my life that I've never had before. I feel happier, I feel lighter, I feel more in control, I feel organized, and I'm putting it all down to balancing out actually achieving the tasks, but giving them a place where I know that they're not gonna consume me unless I really need to do them, and that's kind of it, I think. I don't know, I'm hoping that that makes sense. That's pretty much the life to-do list. As I said, if you have any questions, please let me know. If you would like to see any vlogs of me actually working on my proper list and breaking those tasks down in some of those categories, like I'm more than happy to go through with you with the tasks that I have to do for the inventory, but I don't know if that's interesting to people when it's just me talking about Etsy and my website and like videos and ads and making more planners and designing things. I don't know if that's of interest to people, but that's the kind of stuff that ends up on that list. But in the next 2 weeks, I do have to work on my lists, figure out my goals, and yeah, carry this balanced, organized version of myself into the second half of the year. So I think I'm gonna leave it at that. I hope this was helpful, and as I said, if it wasn't, please leave some comments down below and I will try to clarify anything and make it make sense.